Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Listen, I need about 5 to 7 minutes of your time because I want to give you some information that's going to help you to move your children and their children forward. If you follow this one piece of advice, now if you don't have 5 to 7 minutes, go ahead and do what you want to do with them, inshallah. At the end of the day, you won't be able to blame anybody but yourself. But for those of you who do have time, I want to have a discussion with you all about something that we should have been discussing before. And this is the situation of this whole argument, college, trade, in terms of their education. Where should we push our children to? Now, for those of you who I actually have discussed this with before, then you know my opinion, where I'm going with this. Those of you who don't, then inshallah, listen. You may not agree from the very beginning, but by the end of this conversation, inshallah, the next few minutes, inshallah, hopefully you'll see where I'm coming from. Now, most of us, we've known our kids throughout their whole childhood. We see how they do in school. We see how they do in learning. Are they someone that we can see, okay, well, listen, they're moving on up and they're trying to get into academia, or they're trying to get into one of these fields in which they're actually going to make a lot of money. Because at the end of the day, the majority of us, those who are listening to this video, a lot of times we don't have a lot of money to where we could just pay our kids tuition. We weren't prepared to do that, but we can prepare our children to do that for their children. Now pay attention. I said we can prepare our children to be able to do that for their children if we pay attention here. If you're going to send your child away to college, 9 times out of 10, be honest, they're going to have to go in getting student loans and things along these sorts, which is going to put them way behind in debt. I mean, subhanallah. They may be paying this student debt off for the rest of their life. And that's the honest to goodness truth. For those of you who have done it as well, then you know. Student loans is a beast. It's hard to get off your back once you get into it. So the best way to make sure that your children don't get buried in their student loans, they don't work for the rest of their lives just to pay off this loan, is to make sure that you don't send them to college to get into a field in which they can't make that money to pay that money back. Think about it. You send them to school for something, okay, yes, they get their degree. That's great. But at the end of the day, they're making so little. And even when we say, okay, when they top off at where their cap at for that particular field that they're trying to get into. And yes, you should be looking. Don't just look at a field of education. Look at what they're trying to do. Then see where that cap is in terms of their payments. If they're not going to be able to make enough to where they're going to be able to live and pay back that loan, their student loan, then you're putting them in a situation where they're going to be slaves to that loan for the rest of their lives. Does this make sense? Just so you can go to your friends and say, my child is in college. My child is a college graduate. Does this make sense? Does this not seem a little selfish? Especially if you see that they're the type of kids, because nowadays everybody's going to school, and the majority quite a lot of them are failing out of college because they weren't college material. These colleges let them in for some reason or another, and they ended up getting paid a lot of money for the time that they spent in college. So the colleges made tons of money. The banks, because of the loans, made tons of money. And what did your kids get out of it? But a bunch of debt that they're going to be buried under for the rest of their lives 9 times out of 10. No, if they're going in there and you see they want to get into academia, then listen, they don't have a choice but to get into college. If they want to get into one of these fields in which they're going to make a lot of money so that that's going to enable them to pay off that debt, then they have to go to the college education. But a lot of us and a lot of our children would work way better in learning a trade that they can do. They can get a job working for someone as well as some work on the side and make a lot of money, not have to spend years upon years upon years in learning this. They can get out and get on their own and really begin starting their career early, making a lot of money. And people that earn these, I don't know how you see it, but if you know people in your community that work doing these trades, ask them about what the payment looks like. People are making crazy money. Plumbers, carpenters, all of the rest, people that, whatever they call them, painters, cooks, all types of things. Mechanics. People are making crazy money. Many times they're making more money than a lot of these people that are going to school, even if they graduate. We're not even talking about all of the individuals that are failing out. We're not even going to discuss them. But my point here is, if you're going to put your child in a direction where we're talking about their future, so that they can make money so that they're not buried in debt for the rest of their lives. So when it comes time for their kids to go to school, that they can have made and saved enough money so that they can send their kids to school so that their kids aren't buried in debt. And we can pass this on from generation to generation to generation. It's going to make it so the fact that you have to sacrifice not being able to run around behind your friends and tell them, my child is in college, my child's a college graduate. Yes, he's buried in debt he probably will never come out of for the rest of his life. His children may end up having to pay off his loans. But I can brag on him. What's wrong with bragging and saying, listen, my child has learned a career that not only can he work for major corporations and major companies, but on top of that, he can work for himself and start his own business. That he can make money here and he can gain clients on the side. Make major buku bucks. We see it happening every day. Why is it that it's so important for you to be able to have your bragging rights, that you're willing to put your child in all types of situations? To put him in debt, and 9 times out of 10 his children and their children and their children in debt. Or her children and her children and her children and her children in debt. Think about it. Make wise decisions, because we're talking about the future of not only your children, but their children and their children and their children. Everyone wants to say, okay, yeah, my child went to this school and this, that, and the other, and graduated, and, their GPA was this, that, and the other. But listen, most of us didn't put our children in a situation where they could do that comfortably, come out and not be buried in debt that they 9 times out of 10 won't get out of. Because you got to remember, they're paying off their student loans and they're going to be paying off everything else that they need to be paying off so that they can live. So if we may not have put our children in a situation where they can do this, but we put them in a situation where they can learn and they can take care of themselves and they can do good for themselves. They can do well for themselves. And then hopefully they'll be able to put their kids in a position where they can go and get their college education and come out debt-free, so that when they come out and they're able to be educated and do what they need to do and provide for themselves and their families and not stick themselves and their families in bad situations. But this is going to start with us making the right decision now. This is going to start with us pushing our children in the right direction now. This is going to start with us. Stop coming off of wanting to brag to everyone around us about what our children are doing, even though that we're knowing that they're putting themselves in a situation or in a detrimental situation which is going to cause them to be in debt for the rest of their lives. Just so we can brag. That doesn't make sense. It's not fair. We couldn't set them up in one way. Now what we need to be doing is trying to set them up in another way so that they can be happy, so that they can be good, and so that their offspring can be good as well. So this is the gist of what I wanted to talk to you all about today. Like I said, I only wanted a couple of minutes. So make sure to, as I always say, like the video. Make sure to share it, because this is a conversation that you all need to be having. You all have a responsibility. Y'all are getting a lot of information. Y'all are getting a lot of conversations that could change the whole of our situation and our reality. Y'all have a responsibility to get these conversations started in your circle. Whether you're going to turn around and talk about these things, get your friends and family talking about these situations, or whether you're going to share it with them so that they can get it started in their circles. But you can't just keep listening to this stuff and consuming benefit and not doing anything with it. You have a responsibility just like everyone else does. So like, share it, leave your comments, let me know what you think, because you may or may not agree. I'm not looking for a situation where I'm the one doing all the talking and no one else has an opinion. I know there are people that don't agree with what I said. Tell me why. Convince me. I'm not saying that I'm right all the time. I could be wrong. So if you believe that I'm wrong, let me know why. This is a topic that's open for discussion, and this whole video series here, the community circle, is open for discussion. It's for discussion. It's to get the conversation going so we can stop talking about all this nutty stuff that people have us talking about. I'm going to be kind about it. That people have us talking about. Tired? We should be talking about things that are going to benefit us and move us forward. Tired? And this is what this is for. So don't forget, like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and as well, listen, for those of you who would like to join in on our weekly live streams, inshallah, the link to the Patreon is down below. Inshallah, you can just click on it and we'll see you on the inside. طيب جزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.